Welcome to the Behind the Veil of Reality channel. In this video, I will talk about the true nature of cursed places. Have you ever stood somewhere and felt a deep, instinctive chill that had nothing to do with the weather? A place where the air itself feels heavy, watchful, almost hostile. We've all heard the stories of abandoned asylums, where whispers echo in empty halls, ancient battlefields that feel unnaturally still, lonely stretches of road that have seen too many identical tragedies. These are locations where misfortune seems to cluster, where people report seeing shadows move independently, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, or witnessing events that defy logic. They are places we often call cursed. But what is really happening there? Is it just morbid imagination, or is there something more tangible, more physical at work in these zones of unease? Science, interestingly, offers some compelling clues. Researchers studying so-called haunted locations have frequently recorded unusual environmental factors. One of these is geomagnetic activity. Our planet's magnetic field is generally stable, but in some spots, due to geological formations or mineral deposits, that field becomes chaotic. These subtle, invisible fluctuations can profoundly affect the human brain, particularly the temporal lobe, which is involved in processing sensory information and memory. In such an altered state, a person might see a figure from the corner of their eye, hear a voice, or feel a powerful, often eerie sense of presence. It's not a ghost you're sensing, but your own neural wiring being subtly scrambled by the invisible forces of the earth itself. Then there's the power of sound, or rather, the sound we cannot hear, infrasound. These are frequencies below the threshold of human hearing, but our bodies feel them as vibrations. Natural sources like wind hitting a particular architectural structure, underground water flows, or even industrial machinery can generate powerful infrasonic waves. At certain frequencies, these waves can cause a range of disturbing effects, from anxiety and nausea to feelings of coldness and the chilling sensation that someone is standing behind you. Your rational mind searches for a source of this profound discomfort, and in a place with a dark history, it readily supplies one. A presence, a spirit, a curse. And we cannot discount the psychology of atmosphere. A dilapidated house, with its peeling wallpaper, shadows, and the scent of decay, is a narrative prompt. Our brains are pattern recognition machines, wired by evolution and culture to fill in the blanks. In a grim, decaying environment, our subconscious prepares for threat. Every creak becomes a footstep, every shifting shadow a movement. This is our inherited intuition shouting, telling us that this environment is not safe, that it is, in some fundamental way, wrong. So science gives us tools: anomalous magnetism, silent sound, and environmental psychology. They explain the mechanisms of perception beautifully, but what if they are only describing the symptoms and not the deeper disease? What if these physical phenomena are not the cause, but rather the side effect? A sort of static bleeding through from somewhere else? This leads us to a more profound, and perhaps more unsettling, possibility. What if these cursed places are not merely locations with bad luck or tricky geology? What if they are thin places, fragile points in the fabric of our reality, where the barrier between our world and other, unseen dimensions wears dangerously thin? In this view, the geomagnetic anomalies and the disturbing infrasound are not causing the phenomena, but are themselves the result of this instability. They are the cracks in the plaster, the audible strain of a door being forced open from the other side. In these locations, the veil is permeable, and on the other side, according to countless traditions and modern anecdotal accounts, exist entities. These are not the ghosts of the dead in a traditional sense, but something else, consciousnesses native to these adjacent layers of reality. They are as different from us as we are from deep-sea creatures, and their interaction with our world is governed by a logic we find terrifying. Many reports from such places share a common thread: a sudden draining of energy, a plunge into despair or exhaustion, a feeling of being watched and siphoned. This is where the ancient idea of a cursed place feeding on life finds a grim modern resonance. What if these entities are drawing sustenance from us, not from our flesh, but from the very energy of our consciousness, our emotions, our vitality, our fear? Fear, in this context, is not just a reaction. It is a high-calorie meal. The dense, negative emotional energy produced in states of terror and dread might be a tangible resource in these interstitial realms. The curse of the place, then, is its function as a feeding ground. The clustering of tragedy might not be coincidence, but a grim attractor pattern, drawing in those whose emotional or psychic energy can be most easily accessed, often in moments of extreme vulnerability or violence. This brings us to the most crucial transformation. What happens to the human mind in such a place? Consciousness, as we are learning, is not a locked-in, static phenomenon. It is a receiver, tuned to a specific bandwidth of reality, the physical, material world we all agree upon. But in a thin place, with its environmental stressors and metaphysical permeability, that tuning can be violently adjusted. The scrambling of the temporal lobe by magnetic fields, the agitation from infrasound, these might be the initial tools that pry our perception loose from its moorings. Our consciousness, forcibly retuned, begins to pick up signals from the other side of the veil. It starts to perceive the entities that are always there, but normally invisible. It begins to interpret the raw, strange data of another dimension through the only lens it has, our own sensory and cultural framework. So we see a shadow figure, a pale woman, a strange light. These are our brain's translations of something far more alien. This recalibration is not a passive event. It is an invasion of one's personal reality. People often speak of leaving such a place feeling changed, haunted not by a specific memory, but by a new and terrible knowledge that the world is not as solid or as safe as they believed. Their consciousness has been, however briefly, restructured to perceive a different layer of existence, and that door does not fully close. They have seen the operating system behind the familiar desktop, and they cannot unsee it. So, imagine a lonely forest clearing where disappearances happen. Science might find a sinkhole emitting toxic gases that cause hallucinations and paralysis. A rational explanation. But the thicker, older story might say that the sinkhole is a wound, and the gas is the breath of something stirring below. The fear of those who enter acts as a beacon and a key. Their disoriented consciousness, affected by the gas, slips its frequency just enough to see the thing that dwells there, the thing that then feeds on the final potent burst of their terror. The tragedy is both a chemical and a metaphysical event. The power of place, therefore, may be the power of a threshold. These cursed locations are not necessarily evil in intent, any more than a lightning rod is evil. They are simply points of high conductivity between realms. The scientific explanations, the magnetic fields, the sound, the psychology are invaluable. They give us the language of the mechanism, but they may simply describe how the door vibrates when something on the other side is trying to get in, and how our minds are forced to change shape to glimpse the keyhole. To stand in such a place is to stand at the edge of the map, where the known laws of physics begin to fray, and the older, deeper laws of existence whisper from the shadows. The curse is the location's inherent thinness, and the haunting is what happens when our reality and the things that live in the cracks between realities momentarily meet. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and like this video.